Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for the Doctor of Education with an emphasis on the problem of practice and the role of executive sponsor virtual webinar. My name is Sion John. I'm the Assistant Director of Admissions. Also here with me, I have my colleague from the Office of Admissions, and she will introduce herself.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Tanya McMillan. I am an admissions coordinator here at the School of Education. Thank you for joining us today.
Also presenting today, we have faculty lead of the Doctor of Education program, Dr. Carrie Brakowski.
Hey, everybody.
And before we get started, I would like to cover a few housekeeping topics. First, today's webinar is being recorded. We will be able to share a link with you after the event is complete. Also, please take a second to see if your mic is on mute and video is off. There will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. During the Q&A, we request that all attendees ask general questions on the problem of practice and executive sponsor role. Any detailed questions that may be specific to you or require a one-on-one conversation, we ask you to fill out the contact form, which will be sent via email with the recorded video from today. Next, I'd like to share the agenda for today's presentation. First, Dr. Brakowski will do a quick program overview of the Doctor of Education program, and then she will go into the details of the problem of practice and the role of an executive sponsor. And lastly, there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. And for faculty introduction, Dr. Carrie Brakowski is an associate professor and the faculty lead for the Doctor of Education program. Dr. Brakowski joined faculty in 2016. She received her PhD at the University of Maryland, Baltimore County, and her EdD at the Johns Hopkins School of Education. Dr. Brakowski's research focus is cultivating connection, community, and belonging in our learning spaces. And lastly, Dr. Brakowski received the JHU SOE Teaching Award in 2019, the Bloomberg School of Public Health Excellence in Teaching Award in 2016, and Faculty Award for Service Learning in 2015. At this time, I will turn it over to Dr. Brakowski.
Thanks, Sion, and welcome, everybody. It's so good to see so many people here today. And as Sion said, I was just going to give a quick overview of the program. There's lots more information on our website, and you can contact us with more specific questions. So essentially, similar to other doctoral programs, we require 90 graduation credits, graduate credits. A master's degree is required. And, as you know, most master's degrees have between 30 and 36 credits, and up to 36 of those credits are transferred automatically when you are admitted to the program. And you have the potential for 6 additional credits to come in to replace courses in our program. There is a minimum credit requirement, so you must take at least 48 credits at Hopkins in order to complete your degree. In terms of specializations this year, or areas of focus, we have 4: entrepreneurial leadership and education, mind, brain, and teaching. We have instructional design and online teaching, and urban leadership. And please note, for folks who are pursuing the mind, brain teaching certificate here at Johns Hopkins, you will be asked to select a different specialization because many of the courses in that certificate would already overlap. In terms of program features, I don't think it'll be any surprise to anyone coming to Hopkins that it's going to be rigorous, it's going to be relevant, and you're going to have an opportunity to do some research around interventions. The program, typically our students are taking, between 3 and 4 years. It is an online program with primarily instruction coming from asynchronous experiences. And then there is dissertation, or that culminating project is embedded in the coursework, hence the reason they can finish within 3 to 4 years. So as Sion mentioned, the focus of this webinar is really on both the problem of practice and the executive sponsor. So when we are talking about a problem of practice, you really want to be thinking about something in your context that you can observe, that you can describe, that is actionable, and is transformational. So this idea of asking questions like, What have you observed in your organization that could potentially limit the effectiveness of an educational organization in which you're doing your work? To really dig into the problem of practice. And I always tell students to imagine you have to describe this to somebody outside of your organization. What issues or moments, experiences have you observed that, if addressed, might improve the lives or experiences of other individuals? So it really does come down to this ability to describe and characterize what you're seeing in your context and what this looks like. So in terms of your application, you want your POP statement to obviously be very clear, to delineate the broad problem, not just in your context, but also the connection to the larger society. Because as you might imagine, as you write your dissertation or that final project, there are going to be individuals who are interested in this problem, but perhaps it's not situated in the same context. So creating that motivation. You're going to want to bring some evidence of this problem within the research. So being able to cite, even an article, something that you've seen in the popular press, et cetera. And then also, again, this ability to describe this problem in your own professional context. So again, to state the problem broadly, perhaps you want to start with some sort of introductory sentence, provide statements or evidence with citations, to demonstrate that this problem does exist. State how this problem shows up in your professional context. So you might want to even include factors that you hypothesize are contributing to the problem. And then also think about how this problem aligns with the identified specialization. So again, something that you'll sort of start to recognize as a doctoral student is that as you learn more and more, you have more and more questions. So one thing we always encourage our applicants and students to think about are the questions you might ask when you think about your problem of practice. So again, what issue have you observed? How is this problematic, right? So I often ask students, okay, I hear what you're saying, but why is this a problem? So thinking about that, are there data available, or could you collect data to support and provide evidence that this does exist? And again, we've asked this question in several slides, so hopefully you're seeing that it's important. How is it playing out in your context? Again, what does it look like? And then finally, something to consider is these problems of practice are often quite large and complex and have multiple layers. So where in this POP would you be able to sort of intervene and potentially, make positive contributions? There are a multitude of examples of problem of practices. One of the wonderful things about our program is that we get a diversity of students in lots of different contexts. So these are really just a few examples. Achievement disparities among underserved students, instructional differences between culturally and linguistically diverse populations, low technology and low income schools, low use of data-driven decision-making, in this case by community college faculty, misinterpretation of student evaluations, and then these high levels of stress that in this case were reported in undergraduate speech, language, and pathology students. Some of the questions that are asked about the POP. So, what is the relationship between the student's context of professional practice and the EdD program's problem of practice and applied dissertation? Sion, should I take a few minutes and answer these questions?
Yes, that would be helpful.
Great. Yep, no problem. So typically, we really want our students, the problem of practice, the professional context, and that dissertation or culminating project should all line up. So, you want to have an opportunity to do the research in your own context. So the expectation is that you come with some problem that you're already seeing in your context. So to give you a really extreme example, this program really isn't designed for students who are in between jobs or are maybe freelancing right now or doing contract work for multiple organizations. It's much easier potentially if we can find, problems that are situated in that professional context. What is the relationship between the problem of practice and the candidate's selected EdD specialization? So this question's a little bit trickier because it's not always obvious from the problem of practice how they are connected. This connection sometimes emerges as we start to think about either contributing factors and or interventions that you might undertake. So being able to talk about or hypothesize about connections would be okay. We're not necessarily looking for that through line for the specialization and the problem of practice at the application phase. Must a problem of practice be drawn from my workplace? Yes, I mean, it does. It makes this work much more manageable and doable in the time frame that we've set out for our students. Does my problem of practice need to be fully defined in my application essay? It absolutely does not. If you think about that previous slide I showed you, with respect to broadly defining it, bringing evidence, your connection to your problem, your connection to your professional context, if you're able to do some of that, it'll at least, illustrate to the committee that you have some sense. But look, I'm going to be honest with you. If students who graduate from our program look back at their application, that problem of practice evolves over time, numerous times throughout their time in our program. Now, in terms of the executive sponsor is essential. The role of this individual is it's not instructional, but it's really someone within your organization or a professional affiliation who is in a position, and this is what's key, to help identify potential problems of practice and facilitate access to things like non-proprietary data and other resources. So the role of this executive sponsor, we sometimes call them ES for short, it really is a champion. It's someone that can help, sometimes open doors, make introductions, connections, to really support the work that you're trying to do. Again, being an advocate for the student to help gain access, as I said, and connections to resources, which can be person resources or items resources like data. And then there are examples, research sites, the audience, the data, records. And this person may also hold a position in the organization that is uniquely situated to help you really see different aspects of the problem or the issue that perhaps you didn't know about. And so that's really the role of the executive sponsor. I really like to think about someone who is championing your work is a really nice characterization of this individual. In terms of questions, responsibilities, and time commitment, as I said, this person is not, obviously doing any instruction. They do not serve on your dissertation committee, and we actually usually advise students not to invite this person to be a part of your dissertation committee. So the time commitment is fairly low. It's really more of an informal mentor, and then calling upon this person and keeping them in the loop as you start your data collection, as you continue to think about your problem of practice and things of those nature. Your executive sponsor does not have to have an advanced degree. It's really more about their professional expertise, their professional role, and their ability, again, remember that word championing, their ability to champion the research that you want to do. And the executive sponsor does not have to be your direct manager or supervisor. If you're the head of your own organization, what are your options for selecting an executive sponsor? That's a good question. I mean, this could be someone, again, if we're thinking about someone who's championing your work and helping you access resources, it might be someone that has a professional connection to you. So maybe you're in a professional organization together where they, again, have expertise in this area, even if it's not directly affiliated with your organization. And even if you're the head of your organization, depending on your problem of practice, there might be people at your level, that are uniquely qualified to offer expertise or a different perspective on your research. So, and again, you can put someone down on the application, have them sign. And once you get to the program, if there are still questions, this is a great conversation to have with myself and other faculty once you're a student.
Thank you, Dr. Brakowski. So we are now moving on to the last part of the presentation today. Just a friendly reminder to ask general questions on the problem of practice and executive sponsor. And if you have any questions that require a one-on-one conversation, we ask you to fill out the contact form, and that form will be sent in an email with the recorded video. All right, so looking at the first question from Brandon: can your sponsor be someone who your organization partners with?
So Brandon, that's a good question. I think as long as, so this is where, contextual research gets tricky, right? So I think when you consider someone who partners with your organization, you want to think about the relationship, the benefits, their ability to champion, and you want to make sure that there are no sort of emerging conflicts of interest, right, around them being your executive sponsor. So as long as you can sort of think those things through and it still makes sense, I think it would be okay.
Okay, great. Thank you, Dr. Brakowski. The next one we have from Rochelle: is it an absolute requirement that the executive sponsor writes your letter of recommendation?
Yeah, Rochelle, that's a good question. I mean, you have an opportunity to bring 3 letters to the application process. And, we do have some students where their executive sponsor does not write the letter. So I will say it's not an absolute requirement. I just think the admissions committee appreciates hearing from the executive sponsor, given the importance of being able to access those resources, potentially data, and opening doors. So, but it's not an absolute requirement.
Okay, the next question we have from Yumi: are there any specific formats for the essay, fonts, margins, line spaces, and can title and names be excluded?
So Sian and Tanya, I defer to you on this, but I think sort of standard, I mean, we use APA formatting in the program, so I think something along those lines would be appropriate. I don't know if the application itself, stipulates, so I don't know, Sian and Tanya, if you have more on that.
Sure, Dr. Brakowski. No, there's not a specific designated format. However, I believe it's 500 words for the essay.
Okay.
It's 750 words. Yes.
750. Okay, thank you, Sian. So yeah, so that's the minimum requirement, and we do ask that you stick within that guideline as far as word count goes, but there's no specific format required.
Great.
Thank you. So the next question we have is: if you apply with a specific executive sponsor and then your problem of practice changes, the person becomes unavailable, can I change executive sponsor?
Yeah, so Jane, thank you for your question. So one thing you will notice as a doctoral student is that your research is ever evolving. We talk about the iteration, and it's possible that if your POP changes in a substantial way that this person no longer makes sense, that we can make changes midstream. That definitely happens sometimes.
The next question we have from Joylyn is: how do I apply? Joylyn, is actually a link, and I'll include it in the chat in a few moments, directly on our website, education.jhu.edu, where you can actually apply right online.
All right, thank you. So the next question from Shira is: what if your place of work is your in-progress solution to an issue? In that case, a problem of practice would be related within my practice, but not a problem within it.
Yeah, sure. This is a good question. And so I would caution you to articulate your research from the stance that you're working at a place where the solution is in progress to address an issue. Because I say that because one of the important roles of the first semester or 2 of the program is to authentically and openly explore this problem. And so by starting from a place of having an in-progress solution, you're going to have trouble and challenges, doing the first year of coursework. And so it's not to say that you can't pursue this sort of research where you are professionally. You're just going to have to sort of rethink how you approach this work, if that makes sense.
So the next question we have from Sarah is, will we receive this recording or to refer back to for reference? Yes, the event today is recorded and it will be shared with everyone within 1 week after the event ends today. So the next question we have is, I am an international student. Should my executive sponsor be from a home? Should it be from my hometown?
So the executive sponsor, as we've talked about, really oftentimes come from two sources. They're either coming from your professional context or they're coming from some professional connection affiliation. The key here is thinking about, can this person do the things that we think the executive sponsor should be able to do, which is championing your research, making connections, helping you acquire resources or collect those resources in the form of data. So I'm less concerned about situating them in a hometown or a particular office, because a lot of us are working from all over the place nowadays. It's really about expertise and how their role is situated within your context to do your research.
Thank you. The next question we have is from Sheena. Are there any exceptions for applicants who are not in the workplace where the problem of practice they are interested in occurs? Is it a possibility to make an agreement with the school if they're interested in observing teachers?
Thanks, Sheena. So one thing we pride ourselves on in our program is we try to stay open to possibilities. So I'll say that first. I will say that when a student comes in where the problem is situated in their professional context, it is more reasonable to think that they will finish the program in 3 to 4 years. When a student comes in a circumstance as you describe, it is possible that this might prolong the timeline because it takes time to sort of forge those relationships into an agreement. Now, if we have a student that comes in where these agreements are already in place, and you can articulate in the application, then I think, sure, that is possible that you could do that.
Okay, the next one from Joy Lynn is more of an admissions related question. I applied before, but was told you were full. Do I need to reapply? So Joy Lynn, you may have inquired about the fall 2021 cohort. We're now currently accepting applications for the fall 2022 cohort, and the application will be open until January 14th, 2021. The next question that we have is from Paul. How large are the cohorts, and can you please speak more about the dissertation committee? You mentioned the executive sponsor should not be a part of the committee. Who should be, and if the executive sponsor insists, can they be a part of the committee?
Paul, thank you for your question. So the cohorts for our program are typically between 55 and 65 students. In terms of the dissertation committee, that's typically something that students don't form until their second year in the program. And the composition of those committees usually include your dissertation advisor, as well as usually faculty, internal and external to Hopkins, and sometimes individuals in your professional context. Your executive sponsor could serve on your dissertation committee. I think, again, as I said earlier, with this idea of contextualized research, we just really want to be careful about the politics because, when you're doing a dissertation, you're also required to do a proposal defense, oral comprehensive exams, and a final defense. And so thinking about who you would feel comfortable from your workplace being on that kind of a committee is something that you need to think about. The other thing is, with a dissertation committee, the person definitely has to have a terminal degree. So it has to be a PhD, EdD, something around those lines in terms of credentials.
Thank you. So the next question we have from Chad is, it is my understanding that the problem of practice is combined with a personal statement. I found the 750 word limit to be a bit tight. Do the 3 required evidential statements require full APA citation?
Yes, Cian, I apologize, Chad. I'm not 100% sure I know what you're referring to when you say the 3 required evidential statements require full APA citations. Because the statement of purpose on the application really is a combination of your POP and personal statement. So, and again, remember, the one thing I will say about the personal statement, remember that you're also asked to submit either a CV or a resume. So it's not necessary to parrot what is on that resume, right? Like we can read that in other places. So thinking about what's pertinent to this statement that really still focuses on the problem of practice, but perhaps highlights some of your experience and expertise that you would leverage to better understand this problem. So really, in my mind, the focus should be on the problem of practice and your context and less on sort of the things that you would see in a traditional personal statement.
Thank you. The next question we have from Holly is, can you say more about the specialization areas?
Yeah, Cian, I'm happy to answer this one. I think also there was one right before Chad, Laura Butler was asking, so maybe we can go back to that one after. So Holly, in terms of specializations, so similar to other, graduate programs, we have areas in which students can, spend a little bit more time, maybe attending to their interests in, whether it's leadership, mind, brain. And you really just have a chance after you've taken these core areas of study to explore, right, different topics. And so in those specialization courses, you will be able to develop one of your chapters of your dissertation, but also just strengthen your knowledge of and explore more of those areas, whether it's the mind, brain, leadership, technology. So.
Thank you for catching that one, Dr. Brakowski, as a lot of questions are coming in.
Yeah.
Laura, I have a strong background in rural education, but currently am working in a suburban Maryland school district. Ideally, my problem of practice would surround my passions for rural, urban, underserved population, but it's not currently necessary. The makeup of, I just lost your question, hold on. Necessarily makeup of my school. Is it acceptable for my problem of practice to surround a former position as it is more applicable to my career goals?
Yeah, Laura, that's a really good question. So the tricky thing with that sort of approach, the way our program is structured is you would need to ask yourself, am I able to access data from another professional context to bring evidence of the problem in this context? And if I decided to intervene on this problem, where would I do that intervention if your current professional context isn't relevant? So again, it's not impossible, but these are the things we would have to be thinking about.
Okay, our next question is from Heather. I see in your admission requirements that you asked for a letter from a professor from your master's program. I graduated from my program a long time ago. What are the other options? So I can definitely answer that question, Heather. Basically, if you did graduate or a long time ago and are out of touch with professors, you can certainly use another professional letter of recommendation in lieu of the academic one. That's certainly fine. Our next question, let's see, it's from Jennifer. What if the executive sponsor left the organization during our program? Do we need to find another executive sponsor within the organization?
Yeah, Jennifer, again, as I said, sometimes people change executive sponsors for all sorts of reasons. So we would ask you to try to identify somebody, and perhaps depending where you are in your research, the person you would pick might be different than, who you would have selected at the beginning. So, but it is nice to have that executive sponsor, again, just to be an internal support to your research.
The next question we have is it possible to schedule a time to speak with you directly to clarify certain details? As I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, there will be a contact form that'll be sent in the email with the recorded video. And from there, you could again type your question and submit it, and we'll be reaching out to you.
Okay, our next question is, what is the acceptance rate of this program? The acceptance data that we have over the last two cohorts averages 34 to 36%. Okay, our next question, let's see, there's a lot coming in, so I'm trying to just capture the next one. Okay, the next one we have is regarding the master's degree requirement for applying. Would any stream suffice? My master's degree is not from the education stream, rather conservation science in the environmental field.
Yeah, so this is a good question. So I will be honest, when I entered the EdD, I had an econ undergrad and an econ master's, no education. So it is possible to do it. You will at times feel like you're maybe a little bit behind the 8 ball with some of your classmates who are, just have a depth of knowledge around education, but there are enough courses that help you to get acclimated and to learn. And there's other research. I mean, there's other readings that you can do, of course. So yeah, that's not usually an issue.
The next question we have from Daniel is, can you give some general examples of problem or practices that would be or have been rejected?
Yeah, Daniel, I don't know that it's, it's not really about specific topic areas. The rejection of a POP is really more about, if you remember the sort of tips we offered in those earlier slides around how to articulate that POP with a descriptive statement, evidence, how it connects to your professional practice. If the committee just doesn't feel like the statement has demonstrated that this is a problem, we're not sure what it looks like, we're not sure there's been an exploration of any of the research, those are when we really have questions and wonderings about a person's ability to do the work. So yeah.
Thank you. The next question we have, when you say data, is there an expectation to use large data sets, quantitative data, or is it acceptable to use smaller data that is more detailed and or qualitative data?
Yeah, Jane, we are all about all kinds of data. I mean, this is particularly true in the education space that, evidence takes many forms. And so it's not just one kind. So variety of data, all of which you mentioned. So, and probably more.
Okay, the next question we have from Sarah is, can you please explain the letters of recommendation for this program? Are the letters of recommendation flexible in terms of who you can choose? I work in an international school and there's a language barrier. Any letters from the school administration, my screen is cutting off, I apologize, will not be written in English. So from an admission standpoint, application standpoint, Sarah, the recommendation letters do have to be written in English. And again, they should be professional and academic in nature, but they do have to be in English. Okay, the next question that we have is from Teresa. If you apply before, do the documents submitted expire? If so, what is the expiration time? So if that's very specific to applicants, Teresa, but I will say if you apply to the previous cohort year in fall 2021, we will have certain transcripts and things on file, but you would have to submit an application for this cohort year for fall 2022. If we do have those previous transcripts, we will certainly transfer them to the new application. As far as recommendation letters that you may have had from a previous application, they do have to be within the last 12 months to be transferred to the new application. You would also have to submit a new video interview. And also if your problem of practice, for example, changed or you have any updates in your resume, we would need a new resume and a new essay as well.
Thank you. The next question we have from the next student is, I was in a previous PhD program in another university. I had completed my comprehensive exam and was in the process of writing my dissertation. Therefore, is it possible to transfer whatever I was pursuing in the previous university from another university into the EdD online program?
So unfortunately, as we shared in the earlier slides, that is not possible. You have to take at least 48 of your credits at Johns Hopkins, and there's just no way around that, unfortunately. So, and Sion, I wanted to address Chad and then Ashana are referring back to the comment around the integration of the personal statement and the problem of practice, and they're noting that one of the slides says provide at least 3 evidential statements of the problem. That's just referring to literally like 3 sentences, like, you know, being really clear about bringing evidence of the problem. So when it says evidential statements, it's not asking for pages and pages. It's just asking for citations and some maybe perhaps statistics or qualitative evidence that you have. So just to clarify, Sion.
Perfect, thank you. The next question from Chen is, considering it is an online course, what would be the cohort experience?
Yeah, Chen, I'm so glad you asked that, because I think something that for some students is really surprising is that we as a community are incredibly connected. We have an onboarding, so we have cohort leads, faculty cohort leads for each year of the program. I actually run the first year cohort, so we have regular synchronous sessions together. We do lots of onboarding and community building, and I think you would be pleasantly surprised that we're a really strong community across cohorts and within cohorts. So we do lots of things to keep us connected.
And then one more follow-up question from Chen is, will the specialization area be stated in the graduation certificates or diploma?
It's not. It is not.
Okay, I have a direct message question that was sent to me, Dr. Brakowski. The question is, can a prospective candidate join a virtual class session?
Tanya, I don't think we permit that for sort of privacy reasons in terms of asynchronous sessions. So I would, yeah, I really don't think that we're permitted to do that. If the student has specific questions, they can always reach out to me and I can maybe introduce them to a current student if they want to know more about the experience, but they can't attend the actual class.
The next question we have from Heather is, what is the completion rate?
So it really depends on the group that you look at, because as I said, we have some students that complete in a little over 3 years, and most of our students we're finding are completing in 4 years. So that rate is a bit higher than the 3-year rate. So I would say it's around 65 to 70% in terms of the 4-year completion rate, if that helps.
Okay, thank you. The next question we have from Jane: to what extent do program participants interact with each other and our work?
Yeah, so as I was saying, you know, in addition to doing the onboarding and the community building, most of our, well, all of our classes really are geared towards not just, you know, building your knowledge and skills, but also building that network and connection. And so you're often working in groups. You have to reply and participate in discussion boards. We use Flipgrid, things, you know, different asynchronous tools as well as synchronous sessions. So there will be lots of interaction among the students as well as with the faculty.
All right, so the next question from Heather is, I received my admin certificate from Hopkins. Do any of those credits transfer to this program?
Yeah, Heather, the only way that any of those credits would transfer would be if they meet the threshold for the 6 credits that we permit students to transfer in. So if any of your courses are similar to courses that we require, we could consider it, but otherwise not automatically.
Okay, the next question we have from Jamila is, how do GRE scores impact the application's admission?
Yeah, I mean, I think what is important to know is that the GRE score gives us one data point, and it's only one data point. And so we as an admissions committee are looking really holistically at those letters, all the things you've been asking about, the letters of recommendation, the statement around the POP, all of those things play a factor. And so it's just another data point.
The next question we have from Yumi is, what is the ratio between theory-based and project-based? Are there grants to help project?
So, I mean, I think our program has a healthy mix of sort of the theory and sort of academic style courses that you would expect. And then within those courses and then across those courses, we certainly offer opportunities to do some applied work. In terms of grants, I guess the grants that we have available would be, we have internal program scholarships for which you can apply. And then the School of Education also has small scholarships. I will be honest and say an online part-time doctoral program, there isn't a lot of funding opportunities, unfortunately.
Okay, the next question we have from Allison. When you say 90 credits, do all of those come from the EdD or some from your master's? So yes, Allison, 36 credits come in from your master's. That's the average credits on a master's degree. So the balance of 54 credits will be done at the doctoral level. And I see Paul has a question regarding tuition rates, and we can certainly, if anyone has a specific question about tuition rates, we do have a cost estimate. I know Dr. Brakowski, you're very good about saying funding options are limited, but we do have information to the grants and scholarships page. So I'll be happy to email anyone out information about our grants and scholarships, as well as a cost estimate, so you can get a clear picture on the tuition fees involved in the program. I see a few questions about that. So certainly you'll see my contact information on the last slide that Sion will share. My name is Tanya McMillan, and you can certainly email me after today's webinar if you'd like that cost information sent to you for the program, as well as other resources for financial funding. The next question we have from John Martinez, is there a direct access code for transmitting official transcripts from previous institutions? So if you're sending your transcripts, I'm assuming they're coming electronically, you can, depending on your school, what method they use, you would select Johns Hopkins School of Education, and our email address for those transcripts to be sent to would be soe.admissions@jhu.edu, and I will share that email address in the chat as well.
Thank you, Tanya. The next question we have from Brianna is, can you share about how the participants are matched to a faculty mentor? I'm concerned about finding a faculty member with interest, expertise in my problem and practice area of study.
Yeah, Brianna, thank you for that question. So we do go through a matching process, and it's usually towards the end of the first year, where we will make those matches. When you say I'm concerned about finding a faculty member with interest in my POP, I understand that. I would ask that you sort of suspend the traditional PhD thinking around, matching faculty expertise exactly with your research area. As you may have noticed earlier in the presentation, one of the skills that we impart or amplify in our students and also bring ourselves is the ability to ask really good questions. And so it's not always important or paramount that you have a faculty member who exactly matches with your expertise or your research area. So while we do try to find someone on the committee who has that experience, it doesn't necessarily have to be the advisor. So just to keep that in mind.
The next question we have is, I do not have a research background. My master's degree was a coursework program. How should I prepare research skill for this program?
Yeah, so this is a common question and sometimes a common worry, if I could characterize it as such. And I will tell you that we have summer online orientation modules to help ease some of that worry. And most of our research methods courses do start from a place of, a beginner. And so the faculty are very good about meeting students where they are with their experience. And so sure, you could take I don't know, a methods course before, but honestly, I would just wait till you get here and we'll get you all set up.
Thank you. The next question from Carmen. Will there be any in-person courses at any time?
So the only thing that might be in person for us, I'm crossing my fingers, hoping that the pandemic is in our rearview mirror or has at least settled down to manageable, is we have a summer residency where we come together as a program for 2.5 to 3 days. That would be in person in Baltimore and it's super fun and it's great to see everybody, but otherwise none of our courses are in person. And this was even pre-pandemic, so that didn't have anything to do with the pandemic.
All right, the next question from Sarah. Do students have advisors in the doctoral program and professional development opportunities beyond the classroom?
Yeah, so good question, Sarah. You do have advisors. Sometimes you'll have a dissertation advisor, and of course, you have informal mentors and advisors throughout your time in the program. In terms of professional development opportunities, it really depends on you. We definitely offer opportunities for students to be teaching assistants in the courses, so that could certainly be a PD opportunity. And some faculty, including myself, sometimes have research that we're working on that will invite a student to collaborate with us. So part of that is on you as the student to reach out to faculty and get to know different faculty and their research. So, but there are possibilities.
Next question we have, are undergraduate transcripts required or will graduate transcripts suffice? So all transcripts, all post-secondary transcripts are required. That includes undergraduate. Even if degree wasn't earned, if you had transfer credits into your undergrad degree from, let's say, community college, we'll need all of those transcripts as well as your master's and graduate transcripts. The next one we have, is it possible to view past dissertations, or I guess they mean past POPs, Dr. Brakowski?
Yeah, so Marielle, actually, you can, trying to think how you can view. I mean, the dissertations are published in our library, but of course, unfortunately, you have to have access to those library databases. And I'm not sure, I can check. I'm not sure that there are any that we have on the website. I can check on that, but I think, Marielle, there are, of course, rules around, being able to share those things publicly. So, but I can certainly, Sian and Tanya, I can check into that and get back to everybody on that.
Thank you. The next question from Yumi is, do you have a plan to have a webinar that we can talk to the current EdD students? Yumi, so the next webinar that we're going to be having is a student panel, which will include a mix of current students and alumni of the program. And there will be a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. The registration link will be posted by next week on the school's website. The next question I see is, what is the average workload in terms of hours per week?
Oh, Leandro, this is always a hard question for me to answer. So, typically students are taking 6 credits each semester. So that's usually 2 credits. So you can imagine, you've taken courses elsewhere. So think about the amount of work you have to do in any 3-credit course. And then you're spending time on your POP. And so we have some students that their professional life and their personal life permit them to do a little bit each day. So think about maybe 2 to 3 hours each day. And then we have some students that really are late evening and or weekend warriors. So they're putting in, 5-6 hours Saturdays and Sundays. It really does depend on your work habits and what your schedule permits.
Okay, the next question we have from Phyllis. I have an MS from Johns Hopkins and an ED specialist degree from Georgia College and State University. Would my courses from the education specialist degree transfer if aligned, oops, I'm sorry, my page just moved, with my desired program? So I will say that we do review, all transfers are reviewed by the admissions committee to see if any potential transfer credit would be added beyond the master's. If you have doctoral credits, the maximum that would be considered would be 6. But again, I'm not sure if that ed specialist degree would be a doctoral level or a master's level. But I will say that it will be reviewed by the admissions committee and determine if any other transfer of credit would be applied.
The next question we have from Kyle is, I am a speech language pathologist in an urban school district. I am also an adjunct professor and clinical instructor in a communication sciences and disorders program at a local university. My problem of practice pertains to diversity within graduate programs for speech language. And I just lost this question, bear with me.
He's just asking about whether or not is it possible to explore the POP, even though I'm not a tenured and full-time employee there?
Thank you. Mhm.
Yeah, sure. You know, Kyle, that's something that you would want to discuss with your, with the employer. So the university, the local university that employs you as a clinical instructor. The one sticking point that might create a challenge is that oftentimes at universities, clinical instructors, that role, and this varies from school to school, so you should check, clinical instructors aren't able to be a principal investigator on an institutional review board application, which is what's required to do research. And so it doesn't mean you can't do it. It would mean you'd probably have to find someone who'd be willing to sign on as the PI, the principal investigator for that research. So that would be the one sticking point that you'd want to check on.
The next question is, can you speak as to what extent of familiarity with matters of statistics, SPSS, RStudio, or other data analyzation software is needed for this program?
Yeah, Chad, good question. So the program uses and teaches SPSS. We certainly have faculty like myself that use other data analysis packages, but the program embedded in both methods, 2 of the methods courses, is Introduction to and Practice with SPSS. We also ask students to practice using qualitative software as well. And copies of SPSS are available when you become a Hopkins student via the cloud, or you can get a student edition for a reduced rate.
Okay, and the last question we have from David, I have an MFA and the program does not provide a GPA since it followed a pass-fail grading. Would this be an issue when applying? So David, we'd have to see the official transcript from the institution and determine what option may or may not be available, but we definitely in admissions need to see the official transcript. So that would have to be a part of your application, and then we would contact you regarding any information we can provide with the pass-fail grading scale.
All right, it looks like there are no questions. Thank you so much for attending the Doctor of Education virtual webinar today. A huge thank you to Dr. Brakowski for the wonderful presentation and answering some really good questions today. So on the next slide, here are some important contact information. My colleague Tanya, any admissions related questions, please reach out to Tanya. And then any program related questions, here is Dr. Brakowski and Kathy Chow, the academic program coordinators, contact information. Have a wonderful evening, everyone. Thank you.